Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of Podcast Demastered. I'm your host, Ethan Meyer, and I'm joined, as always, by my two very good friends, Wade and Chelsea. And we have an exciting episode today. We are going to be talking Marvel stuff, more specifically the MCU Phase 4 line of Marvel. Obviously, since Phase 4 is not over, this is kind of just like a kind of reading the room, getting like a pulse check, if you will. So if you guys remember, if you've been listening to the podcast since the beginning, we did an Infinity Saga retrospective as kind of like a fond look back on that, that whole arc. Like I said, since Phase 4 is still ongoing, this is more just kind of like dipping our toes in and seeing where we all stand, how we all are, what our feelings are towards it, some hot takes, some opinions. So obviously with that in mind, there's going to be spoilers in this episode. We'll try and keep it to a minimum as best we can, but a lot of this stuff, since it's been out for quite some time, I think we've crossed that safety threshold for most of it. 2 out of the 3 of us haven't seen the new Spider-Man film, so we won't be talking a whole bunch about that. So don't worry about that if you guys are worried about Spider-Man spoilers. Spoiler: there's multiple Spider-Man in that movie, so just go ahead and throw that out right now.
Ruined everything.
Ruined it all. Sorry, guys. If you didn't see all
and that's it for the episode.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and send it over to Wade. He's our resident Marvel aficionado here. So I'm going to have him kind of take over for this episode and kind of just steer the ship on this one. And I'm just going to sit back with opinions. So, Wade, take it away.
I'm bringing the opinions.
That was a nice way to put that. Thank you. All right. So, yeah, where to start with this? So we've been in Phase 4 for a year and a half. Well,
sure. It feels longer. Yeah.
Technically, you count Black Widow as the first stage.
Yeah.
I guess technically.
And that movie came out like 7 years ago. It feels like so.
It kind of does feel like that, even though that one really was just a year and a half ago.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I think COVID time is like doubled. So.
Triple sometimes.
Yeah.
I just had a conversation the other day actually with another teacher friend saying that like all the teachers who are teaching right now, we should have our current time like tripled, like towards retirement, because like 1 year is actually 3 years.
Yeah,
because that's
for sure.
It's the toll it's taking.
Yeah.
But with the pandemic, everything kind of slowed down, including Marvel. But they've kind of got things back on track, and we're going again. We're moving, and I'm happy to see that. I always look forward to the next Marvel show, Marvel movie. Now I don't like obsess over it, but like by the time there's a next one ready, like let's do it. I'm there for it.
Right.
How about you all?
Yeah, Chelsea, you go first.
I will. Yeah.
Ethan's
it's
gonna
okay.
save
I'm a little
his
bit
for
of
the end.
No, I'm a little bit of a downer too. I honestly feel like I have self-diagnosed MCU fatigue. Really, at this point, it's just I was kind of feeling it towards the end, honestly, of like Infinity War and Endgame. But during that time, it was also a feeling where I had to watch all the movies. I had to know everything that was going on, and just had to be ready for the next thing. And I think like after Endgame, it just was kind of almost freeing though, in a sense, where I felt like I didn't have to watch everything, and I could just kind of take it at my own pace. And at the same time though, it's like it's not as meaningful to me anymore too. And I feel like it's just because it was such an epic story. And I mean, I guarantee, there's definitely going to be something clearly epic coming, on later down the line, but it's just, I'm just taking it at a slower pace now.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like with the Infinity Saga, it was a very tight, cohesive, well curated kind of arc. that everything sort of every piece of entertainment all fit in like a puzzle piece to kind of get you there to Endgame, and you felt like you had to consume all of it to be on the up and up, you know. And once Endgame finished and they kind of blew the doors off, and then they created all these different lanes and stories, it's freeing in a sense where the stakes aren't as high, so you can kind of take like a big sigh of relief, I guess. But for me, since it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of cohesion between all the properties to give me like a clear sense of where we're going, I don't feel compelled to engage with everything that they're putting out there, if that makes sense. It almost feels like they're kind of just spinning their tires until they get to like the real meat and potatoes of the stuff that comes later. And they're just kind of like, well, you know, let's fill in the gaps with some of these side characters that were in the Infinity Saga but didn't get their time to shine. So let's give them some backstory and some spotlight, since they're kind of, you know, they need it. But I don't know. Everything just kind of feels too loose to me. And I feel like I could just like skip stuff if I don't seem interested in it. I'm just like, okay, yeah, well, whatever, on to the next. This isn't for me, so move on. Where in like the Infinity Saga, I'm like, shit, I have to watch this even if I'm not into it, because there's going to be something important that I need to know.
Well, I definitely... Oh, go ahead, Chelsea.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, you know, kind of, I think you mentioned like filler as a word. It's kind of what this past year or so has felt like in a way, even though we've gotten to see some more like stories focused on some of these side characters. It's also unfortunately just kind of pointless in a way, because we're like retroactively being like, look how much like they're like we could have learned about these characters, and I'm like, well, we've already seen them through all these movies and they didn't get that much depth, but you're trying to say like all this stuff happened in between these stories, or they've been going through all this trauma this whole entire time. And it's like, I like those stories, but at the same time it's like you're trying to correct things or try to insert things to make the characters more meaningful.
Yeah, it's also kind of pulling the rug out from you, because they're almost admitting that, yeah, we know these characters weren't important enough to have this in the first place, but now that all the good characters are gone, let's go ahead and try and pump these guys up. You know?
Yes.
And I know I'm very glib about that, but it's just kind of how it feels right now. And yeah, there's a lot of introductions, and they're trying to introduce a lot of new characters and younger Marvel characters, and that's great. You know, there's, like I said, I'm not saying they don't have a roadmap. I'm just saying that, you know, if you look back at Phase 1 in the Infinity Saga, and it was basically all origin films, but each one of those origin films also clued you into something bigger that was going to happen, and that was like the Avenger Initiative. This is kind of like a second Phase 1 where we're sort of introducing new characters and then also trying to puff up B characters, you know, B-side characters basically. And yeah, you know, there's the multiverse kind of shit here and there, but it's either half the time a red herring, or the other half it's just like so far down the road that it's just like, okay, cool. So when like
yeah,
so.
Well, I think it's also interesting too, because yeah, you're saying you're comparing it to Phase 1, which I agree, but it's also like when the beginning of all the MCU stuff, like a lot of like people that were fans of the Marvel characters, like they were very familiar with those characters in the beginning, so you could kind of see where things were leading up to. But at this point, like, we're being introduced in some characters that normally don't get a lot of, you know, a big spotlight on them or anything like that, and so it's just kind of everybody's just kind of along for the ride, kind of guessing how everything is going to come together. And so it's definitely new in that way that we don't see. But yes, there's definitely all those little hints here and there, or even just larger hints about the multiverse and everything, and just opening up new stories for all different kinds of characters.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Wade, what are your thoughts?
Well, I was just thinking, like, with the multiverse stuff, I'm really curious to see how long that lasts after the next Doctor Strange movie. Like, has all the multiversal, like, buzzwords and stuff, are we just simply kind of leading up to the multiverse of madness, and is that going to be, like, quelled, I guess, within that movie? Or is Doctor Strange going to kind of take that concept and give it more of a direction? For things to use in the future.
I honestly think that the Strange film should be more of a stepping stone to kind of help people not only get a direction and a lane to follow towards whatever the multiverse conclusion is going to be, but also better help to like understand everything that's going on. Because like I think Spider-Man No Way Home had some of that kind of thrown in there, but a lot of it was kind of, I think, more of like sort of a love letter to just like Spidey fans and not necessarily big picture stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because
the multiverse itself isn't really discussed within the movie,
right?
Just that people are coming within the multiverse, and that like if the near the end they're like, well, if the multiverse continues to grow like into our universe, basically like our universe will be lost.
Like I think the multiverse is sort of kind of going to be the term that we're all going to have to kind of grasp, just like with Infinity Stones and how that was introduced very cautiously in phase 1, and then we had to deal with it for 10 years basically. I think it's going to be kind of the same thing, because like Loki setting the stage with Kang and the multiverse war, and then Kang basically being confirmed for the next Ant-Man film, or at least that, you know, that actor who plays Kang's in it. I don't know which version of Kang or whatever the shit. Like I think there's going to be a lot of rope for the multiverse. But yeah, I don't. Besides Loki, kind of just like introducing like a potential next big bad that has been on the front lines of the multiverse. You know what I mean? All these other stories don't really do anything to like set it up. Like I feel like Wanda Vision was basically just the equivalent of like trolling fans for like multiverse shit. Like that whole show, that whole show basically was just red herrings and troll tactics from creatives. And like, you know, the problems I have with it as a ode to sitcom evolution, I think it's great, but as a MCU property, I think it's abysmal. But yeah. I don't think the multiverse is going to end anytime soon. Basically, I think it's going to be around for a while.
Perhaps, yeah.
Well, and I also think with the multiverse, though, that's like not the so-called like end game they're going for. I definitely think, yeah, it will stick around for a while, but I think we're leading to this huge galactic war.
Yeah.
It's like even bigger, because I think we've seen there's stuff alluded to at the end of Eternals.
Yeah.
Like Eternals, that was introducing a whole wealth of characters that we knew nothing about, and even more characters that we barely got to see in that film that were introduced towards the end of that movie and everything. And just there's a lot of building upon that, about like there's more out there than just, you know,
there's more out there besides the Guardians flying around, getting in the shenanigans.
Yeah, and more out there than just the characters also introduced in Captain Marvel too, because those are all their, you know, with the Skrulls.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of the Skrulls, like I'm curious as to where Secret Invasion is going.
Right.
Because in like the comic book version, like, well, like forever, the Skrulls are like one of like space's like biggest enemies. Not that the Kree are the good guys though, because the Kree doesn't get along with Earth in the comics at you know, for a long time either. But it was the Skrulls who like came to Earth to kind of like put puppets in for like everybody, anywhere they can get power. They were replacing superheroes, they were replacing governments, they were replacing everything so that they could come and basically claim Earth as like the new Skrull planet. But I don't quite see that happening in the show adaptation. Just because of like where the Skrulls are now, like they're kind of just trying to not go extinct, basically.
Yeah, they're basically like refugees.
Well,
I guess it's also been 30 years or so since the last time time-wise, chronologically that we saw the Skrulls. So, I mean, that's not exactly a generation or anything.
Well, I guess the Skrulls were in
yeah.
weren't the Skrulls in Far From Home?
Far From Home. Yeah.
Just the two
Right.
of them that were in Captain
Well,
Marvel.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was going to say, so, like, I did actually watch Captain Marvel recently, and because I was just curious, I had forgotten a lot about that movie. But the Skrulls, like, the Skrulls in that movie, like, yeah, they're kind of considered more of, like, you know, kind of the good guys and stuff, but they do mention that they're, like, only, like, a small group out of the larger population of the Skrulls. So there still could be that, like, super psycho, like,
Super
subset
Skrulls.
that decides to come and try to take over Earth because they feel like it's their duty to do that.
Yeah,
And
I guess
that's the way.
I guess my thing is, like, with Secret Invasion, besides just bringing back, like, some fan favorite characters, what is its, for lack of a better word, like, what's its end game? Like, what is it setting up, or what are we getting out of it that has, like, any bigger implications to continue on with them? You know what I mean? Like, all these other shows are potentially trying to set up things. You know, WandaVision basically gives us Scarlet Witch, Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like, we finally get Falcon as, like, the new Captain America, basically. Loki, we get introduced to Kang, or a variant of Kang, whatever whatever. Like, what are we gonna get out of Secret Invasion? Like, what is its point?
Sword, maybe.
Like a more fleshed out sword, I guess, since Sword was already in.
I guess, or at least acknowledging maybe, you know, there's been some, you know, recent acknowledgement of certain prior Marvel properties. Maybe they'll bring in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because of how that show ended. I would love to see some of those characters. And
No, I have to go watch like 4 seasons.
Yeah, can they just like say
No,
that
do
they
not.
never came back from the blip?
No,
Oh, that's rough.
they lived through that. I mean,
Like,
the
they just
timeline
got
does get a little.
lost.
I mean, the timeline does get a little funky and stuff, and they do a lot of time travel and stuff on their end. So you really could just say that they take place in like a, you know, another different part of like the multiverse. But I would love to see some of those characters brought back specifically to handle things, and that Secret Invasion would be the perfect point to reintroduce them.
Like, I guess it's Secret Invasion is basically to just try and reestablish some sort of, like, structure on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Right, for all the non-galactic superheroes to dick around with.
But isn't Sword already in it? Was it
Sword's
Sword
in-
in WandaVision?
Swords in WandaVision, yeah.
Yeah,
They're the
okay,
ones
that's true.
headed by that jerkface.
Yeah, they were the ones that, like, had the surveillance or whatever.
Now,
Well, they
like,
could be brought back in there
if they
so.
could turn Sword into like the cool sword,
Yes.
that would be fine. Because that was not the cool sword.
The Master
that was,
Sword.
That was the stupid white male power sword.
Yeah.
We
I
need-
know, that's
we
what I'm
need-
saying. I want the cool one.
We need like Abigail Brand sword. I need Abigail Brand in the
Yes.
MCU. She'd just come in
Please.
and she'd just kill everybody. She's like, I'm tired of everybody's shit. You're all just gonna die.
Yeah. Well, and for a Secret Invasion, they've introduced some pretty, like, big names for that show. I don't know what
Yeah,
the
it's gotta-
rumors on who they're playing.
It's it's supposedly
Yeah.
gonna have a pretty big cast, with steady announcements for it.
Isn't Emilia Clarke supposed to be in Secret Invasion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
she's
and Olivia Colman.
Oh my god. Ah, okay. So first off, hold on. I'm gonna have a fanboy moment about Olivia Colman. Secondly,
Yes.
I've like ever since Emilia Clarke was like, oh yeah, BTW, I'm gonna be in Secret Invasion. Don't tell anybody. Like, I've been wondering like who she's gonna be.
If she's gonna bring her dragons or not.
I bet that's in her contract. Please do not give me dragons.
Well,
Please
there's a
do
dragon
not
we
give
could
me
no,
dragons.
we could bring back.
I'm wondering maybe she'll be like the Scroll Queen.
That seems very
I
on
mean,
brand.
she's a pretty badass bitch.
I mean, wasn't it already rumored that she was playing a Skrull?
Was it?
I think so.
It just seems like it's an assumption.
Yeah.
I mean, the Queen's pretty amazing. Oh wait, hold on. Yeah, the Queen, right? Is that Teddy's mom? Teddy Chapman?
Roosevelt?
Oh.
No. Is his mom the princess?
Oh, that's one thing I do not
crud.
remember.
Because the Queen is a badass bitch, but she's like an evil badass bitch. But then the princess is like...
Then the princess is Emilia Clarke.
Oh my god. Okay. I'm watching that series 85 times in a row.
Yes.
Maybe that's gonna be the show that's gonna introduce Hulkling. Because we've already got Billy coming.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say. Bring them back around.
If the twins are not introduced at in the multiverse of madness, in their realized teenager adult forms,
Or yeah.
I'm gonna be mad.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah. Don't put them in WandaVision and then not give us the actual characters of, or at least Billy, I guess.
They teased us so much in WandaVision, though.
Yeah,
it's I don't want to hurt myself wishing for
the more I
things.
look back on WandaVision, the more ire I have. It's it's not something I look back on fondly, I guess.
It's too bad. It's too bad.
Yeah.
I can't change everything, I guess.
I mean, but I guess kind of just going from just the shows, WandaVision I thought had a really strong, compelling start. I think the first 3 or 4 episodes of that show were top notch, and then it just went off the rails real quick with them. I felt like they were trying to be too cute. And
there was supposed to be a last episode, an additional episode.
I don't know if that would have fixed anything.
It would have, because when they had to get rid of the last episode, so they had to end it in the actual last episode. They had to take out a lot of character moments. Instead, we kind of got this rushed
yeah.
Look at everybody using their powers and having fun and beating the bad guy, but it was supposed to be a much
and even
different situation.
Yeah, and it was
Instead
not
of getting a witch fight in the air.
Yeah, it was not a good showing in terms of production value for the last 2 episodes.
Bad.
Well,
exactly.
We'll get proper
cringe.
Scarlet Witch effects and coolness in Multiverse of Madness. So,
and
what's that Agatha show gonna have?
Fuck
I don't care. I'm already.
That's my hot take for this show.
I'm gonna need you to back off that.
Better be a musical.
That song is fucking
freaking musical series.
Her song
and be
is
a comedy.
dumb. Her witch shit is dumb. Everything about that character is dumb. Can't stand that. I don't know where all the love came from.
I think you don't know about Agatha Harkness.
Yeah, I don't know about her from the comics. In fact, I guess. So I pretty much everything within the MCU, I look at it with just eyes within the MCU, and I don't have any sort of comic book framework to help build around any of this stuff. So I just witness all this stuff as how they're presenting it to me within the MCU. So a lot of these characters I feel aren't as fan favorites just aren't presented to me in such a cool way that people are like, oh, well, this character's so amazing in the comics. I'm like, okay, well, I haven't read the comics. I only seen them in this, and they sucked. So they sucked to me. You know what I mean? So
that's fair.
And Agatha is that. That was a horrible, just everything about it. She wasn't intimidating. That song was fucking dumb. The whole last half of that show was terrible. It was just cheesy and everything that I wanted for that show, on like, you know, stuff that you're talking about, Wade, all the character moments, all the emotion, I feel like was pulled out and turned and all this like crappy Halloween town fights were left in, and I was just like, I don't want any of this. Like, the best part of the show in the latter half was when it was just Agatha taking Wanda just through like her past, basically, and all these like memories. Like, that was great. Like, I want that kind of stuff. That stuff resonates with me and makes me care about characters, not these two floating around shooting purple lasers at each other or whatever. Like, that was just like, that shit is awful.
Not that part.
That killed me.
Like, all that was, and then like the intro where like Agatha's tied up to a pole and then the witches are like sucking her energy or some shit, and like, it was all just it was all so bad. It was not a strong showing for MCU TV, basically. I guess it didn't end strongly. It started off great. I was super invested. I was really into it. Like, some of the ways those episodes ended were like kind of like sort of unnerving and kind of creepy, and you're just like, what the hell is happening? Like, this is awesome. And then like they took all that away, all the mystery and intrigue away, and implemented all these like dumb jokes and misdirections for all the, you know, the boner person joke, like, like all this like stupid shit that was just put in to just like mislead people doesn't service your story or your characters, in my opinion. Like, it's just like dumb Twitter shit for people to piss off, basically. Like, to me, that's not compelling TV. That's just, I could get that on Twitter if I wanted to get people.
It's conversation in the moment, but it doesn't last much beyond that. Yeah,
it's just like trolling. It's just trolling in TV.
Oh well, yeah, that's yes.
Like, that's all
that
it was
show
doing.
was a lot of trolling. Yeah,
like that 1,000%.
I don't need that. Wasting money on that.
And then with Falcon and Winter Soldier, I thought that show had some good setups for both of those characters, for both Sam and Bucky, with Sam dealing with, you know, what does it mean to be a black man but an icon for America, basically. Like, what does a black Captain America even look like? Is this something I even want to do? Is this a mantle that I should even have? What is, like, it handled race and talked about that stuff, or tried touching on it. And then with Bucky, it's like, you know, with all his PTSD and all the stuff that he did in his past, trying to come to terms, like, am I a good person? Do I deserve a second chance? Can I live a new life with the demons in my past? Those are two great setups for great TV. And then you have this like half-ass shitty Foot Clan or Hand Clan villain refugee, whatever the fucks, running around with I don't even remember what their purpose or point or their agenda was anymore. Like, all that was terrible. Like, and then you get, you know, discount Captain America, John Washington, running around, whatever the fuck he was doing.
Walker.
Yeah. Whatever. Like, I just feel like they have these like great premises and these great starts, and then they just like they're like throwing spaghetti at the wall and trying to just like cram so much bullshit in these shows, and I feel like they don't need to. And I don't know if it's to just try and shove as much stuff in there to set up all these other storylines and characters, and this is going to start the Action Jackson Red Falcons and all this other, you know, comic book bullshit. But in terms of just like a series of television, it's like, I don't know what I'm watching anymore. Like, you've lost me. I don't know what the fuck is even happening. I don't know why I should care about half of these people, because you start off something great and then you just kind of, they like lost the thread, you know?
Yeah. I will defend the villains in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because I do think that group, it was kind of a smart, creative way to set up like this villain group, because they were people that lived during the snap, and then when everybody came back, they were pushed out of their homes and everything, and I think that was a really interesting thing. But if they had really stuck with more of those ideas instead of making it kind of cheesy and as stereotypical that there was the one person who was like, oh, I'll be good, I'll be the one to change all these, terrorists around type thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Whatever.
Like the background for them, are they're basically just like displaced citizens. They don't have a banner anymore. They don't have a country anymore because they didn't exist for 5 years or whatever. They were just floating around in quantum wherever the hell, wherever you go and you're blipped, dust in the wind. And then like that setup's great, but then when I feel like the writers didn't really know what to do with it, to give it a conclusion besides just ending with Sam giving a speech to a bunch of senators or some shit, like whatever that was. Like none of those first two shows just ended with I feel like the writers' room were like, well, you got me. I don't know. Let's just have a fight scene, I guess, because we don't know what we're doing anymore. Let's get lunch.
Yeah,
we're bored.
Yeah, they were definitely not as exciting as I thought they were going to be. But then we do move on to Loki, which does get more interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Well, the great thing about Loki is that the other two had to be preludes to a movie. So, and we don't know what the writers or directors of the shows got. The movies are going to start here, and we need the character to be in this kind of space. So, you can do that. But with Loki, there wasn't an Endgame with Loki. There was no Loki movie or a TVA movie or anything like that. They could just, they've said, for the second season, they're like, we don't know what the hell we're going to do for second season because everything is our oyster. We don't have any limitations to what we're not supposed to do. So we can just get out there and do what we want.
And I'm sure I get that these are basically just like prequels or whatever to a bigger property that's coming down the road. But that doesn't negate the fact that it just had piss poor writing and storytelling. If that's the case, make your story smaller. You know what I mean? Do something a little bit more condensed and focused.
Totally.
Don't try and make some some bombastic movie production show with all these things that happen. Just do a character piece. Your TV. That's what the benefit of TV is. You have way more time to focus on the details, the stuff that matters, the characters. If you get 6, 7, 8 episodes, you get 8 hours to just flesh out something. But instead they took 8 hours and just tried to cram as much shit in it as possible. And at the end of the day, none of it felt like it mattered. Besides, wow, we got costumes now. We can sell some toys. Cool.
Well, it's Marvel and Disney.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. There's merchandising, there's a business, but still.
Yeah.
I've said this before, I'm not a big TV guy, but when I go into TV, I am expecting that kind of entertainment, a little bit more slow burn kind of build out. It's not an excuse for you to just cram more shit that you couldn't if you only had a 2-hour film to do it. And I thought Loki actually, without being a setup for anything, did it better than any of them. That was a great character study on a character that doesn't have a road in front of him. That's
true,
the benefit. That's the benefit of TV right there. Is just take what they did with Loki. That was an incredibly emotional and well crafted and well written show. It had one episode that kind of felt like a filler and had some pretty rough production quality, but whatever. Taken as a whole, that show was fantastic. It was really well done.
It still ended on a high.
Yeah, and I get tired of these people complaining, oh, well, it wasn't some action-packed climactic, they didn't have some big fight with Kang or whatever. I'm like, you know what? It was more impactful to me just him having that 8 minutes of him just sitting behind a desk and talking. That was way more intimidating than any of the bullshit we got in Black Widow or fucking Wanda Vision or Falcon or any of that stuff combined. Because it was just well acted and well written and well presented. Like, it legitimately was terrifying. Him just sitting there and just, like, his pros behind a desk playing with a fucking apple. You know what I mean? Like...
Absolutely, yeah.
But that's what happens when you
that's
gotta
crazy.
get a better, better team behind it again, better writers and better showrunner, and just like they have a vision that makes sense. And they understand the medium. Like, TV is not film, and film is not TV. Don't try and...
Well, I think either director or the writer, I can't remember which, whoever it was, they hadn't even seen the MCU movies.
Yeah, and that honestly probably helped.
And he went, like, whoever it was, they went, like, before they started the project and just watched the movies with Loki in it. So, like, they understood Loki's journey, and they just went from there, so...
Also, I think it was Kate something. I think she did something. She was doing something prior, and then they're like, "Hey, do you want to do Loki or whatever?" And it was just like, "Sure." Like, it was not
the director, or
like the showrunner for Loki or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's also super interesting because the music, which I think personally is some of the best in the entire MCU. That composer didn't even see like any of the like footage to make the theme, and the theme for that show is amazing. And the fact that it's implemented throughout the whole show, where you can just play a couple notes and you recognize it as like the Loki theme, like that's kind of like, that's kind of the purpose of music and entertainment. Like most Marvel films, I don't even think about the music or remember it when it's over, because it's just so generic. Yeah, it's like royalty-free music. Like Chelsea, I'm sure you...
Marvel's never had strong, like, music.
Like Chelsea and I being video editors, we've dealt with searching for royalty-free music, I'm sure, dozens of times, and you just go hit that toggle for cinematic or trailer or whatever the fuck, and you just listen to all this generic shit. I'm just like, this is just Marvel movies. Like, this is... This all sounds just like a Marvel film. Like... That's the one thing the MCU has been terrible at, is like creating any sort of memorable music. And Loki finally gave me something that was worth a damn.
Yeah, it's like the music's the last thing they think about.
Yeah, it's like, whatever. We got shiny suits and particle effects. People will be fine.
Like, the only music that's really like persisted throughout the whole series, like the whole of MCU,
is the Avengers theme.
The Avengers theme, of course, for sure. Captain America's theme shows up a good bit. The new Spider-Man theme, like the new one, you hear it in any movie he's in.
Guess I'll have to listen to it. I don't remember that one.
Yeah,
it's if you think Spider-Man theme, you think like da da dun da da dun. It's not really it's not like that. But if you heard it, like, you'd go, oh, it's that one part. It's like, oh, it's the thing.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like there in the back of your head, not like. See, like, I can't even recall how it goes, but I know, like, watching the movie, I go, oh, it happened. Oh, it happened there too. Oh, it happened there too.
Yeah, I would say the Avengers theme is by far the strongest, because that's something that they can play in front of like the Marvel logo, or anytime it's an Avengers film and you hear that, that opening, it's like, all right, cool, we're getting into it now. Like,
well, even like Thor had a good track that they played. It plays throughout like the slower, more like emotional parts of all three of the movies.
I can't.
And it's the only it's like the only melodic theme in Thor. Everything else is very programmatic and like meant. It's like, you're in the moment. Here's your music. But then there's this one song. It's like, oh, it's time for a slower, like, character moment. That song's playing. It's that tune. It's there in the background. I like that one.
I believe you. I just it's
yeah, man. I'll have to take your word for it.
It's not
but you're
something
also
they're strong at, or
yeah. I mean, when you think of some of the more iconic film franchises of stuff like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and stuff like that, you can immediately hear that music. And then when I think of MCU, there's not a piece of music that immediately pops into my head that I could like hum or like tell some or like emulate for somebody, and this is this is a mega franchise that's never been done before. I mean, I'm sure Fast and Furious is trying, you know. Gotta give them credit. They got like 15 films out there, you know. They're chasing. But you're talking about a project that's been going on for like what 13 years or some shit now, and like the music is just like ugh, whatever. You know what I mean? It's not something I would put on my Spotify and listen to ever.
There was an interesting interview. I can't remember who the composer was, but it's a composer who's worked with several of the movies, like a lot. Especially, I think it might have been the one who did Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
He remembered like trying to write the score for that, and it was pissing him off so much. Because execs would be like, oh, make sure that you get, like, anytime a character is on the screen during, like, the big moments, we need to have their, like, theme playing somewhere. But, like, things change
like, hey,
so much
there's
in those
30
movies.
characters on the screen.
Yeah,
Which theme do
yeah.
you want?
Yeah.
He's like, I cannot write a song that jumps from this theme to 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 this theme in such a way to make sense.
Yeah.
To make you like it,
And honestly,
or for you
like,
to even understand what's happening.
and
So
a
he
moment
didn't
like
do it.
that, like character theme in film, for me, is more impactful moment to moment, and not necessarily just every time the character is on screen.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, just because, like, oh, well, now we're gonna cut to Robert Downey Jr. So start playing the Iron Man music because he's talking now. You know what I mean? And then
It is.
Well, it's
Yeah.
just the big moments, not like
well, yeah,
literally every time.
but even then, like, who is it a big moment for? You know, just because there's 12 of them on the screen, like, whose moment is it actually? Like,
Yeah,
I can think
like-
in Endgame when Captain is by himself on that hill or whatever, and holding the shield and the hammer, or like right before he says a symbol, like, that's a moment for Cap. You know what I mean? That's a good time to play like his music before everyone shows up through the portals. But like when everyone starts showing through the portals, I want to sit there and be jumping with 30 different superhero themes or some you know what I mean? Like,
I think that wasn't that part actually silent. Like there wasn't any music.
yeah,
It
which
was
is
just him standing on the hill, and then like
which
the
also
portals
is-
open up. It's
which is
still,
also
like,
probably
silent.
which is also for the best because
Oh, yes, absolutely.
But I'm
Yeah.
just saying,
That's
like,
totally fine, yeah.
I'm just saying as an example, like that's a moment for a character where that would be,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Or like I think it's in Infinity War where Cap is they're at like the train station and Cap steps out of the shadows for the first time you see him in the film, you know, when Wanda and Vision are being attacked by the like that's
His
that's
theme,
another
his theme does play then.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's a good moment because, like, the fans are expecting Captain America, you know? And it's, like, a big reveal, da-da-da-da-da. Like, that makes sense. You know?
Yeah.
Well, just hopefully we'll see more memorable music.
I was hoping for
MCU.
memorable music in Eternals, and it was also just, like, whatever. Like, I don't even... And that composer's been around in the MCU forever because it's Ramen or Raymond. I'm going to fuck his name up. Dijwadi. Like, he's been around since, like, the first phase or whatever. I'm pretty sure he scored the Avengers. But he's also, like, really, really well known for... He did all of Game of Thrones. But, like, all his music kind of sounds the same. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, like, generic fantasy cinematic music. You know?
Well,
Yeah,
that's like all the MCU. It's just
he
generic.
did something
Yeah.
like really recently.
He does a
right?
lot of stuff. Like, the dude hops around a lot. He does a lot. Like, if you just look him up on Spotify, he has, like, 70, like, film albums or whatever.
Well, yeah, I'm sure he's
Oh.
absolutely loaded. All these
I was
big
gonna
things
say,
that he gets to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even though Eternals didn't have, you know, exciting music, it did have a lot of other pros.
Yeah, it did. You mean like the
Now
MCU's
that's what you
first
call
sex
a
scene?
film.
That was hot,
No,
baby.
that's well, sure. No. No, but that's cinema. That movie was absolutely gorgeous.
I'm glad you liked it because I haven't heard anything. And then the last time we talked, you're like, yeah, I watched Eternals. I'll have my thoughts on the episode. I'm like, oh shit, you hated it.
No, I mean, there were definitely some pros and cons about that movie, but I think that, you know, really you got to see Chloe Zhao like in action with like I thought it was very good directing. I thought, yeah, the whole movie was beautiful. I actually, you know, I think a lot of people complained that the movie was slower and took more time with like characters and stuff. That's what I want. Everything doesn't have to be action 24/7.
Yeah, 1,000%. The best parts of
real.
that film are the quiet moments between the characters. And I think where the film kind of suffers is when the Marvel executives are like trying to rein her in. Be like, all right, come on. You're losing all the Cheeto Puff fingers are in their basements that are bitching that there's not enough stuff blowing up right now, and they don't like all this emotion.
Monster fight, yeah.
They're confused by all this. So
I'm like, no, yeah. Yeah, those parts, actually the more Marvel-esque parts of that movie, I kind of like rolled my eyes at, because I was like, forgot I'm watching a Marvel movie in a way, and I'm like,
yeah, you honestly do, because when that movie is at the highs, when it's just like these two characters, or because that movie is just filled with all these such just like one-on-one interactions that are very emotional and compelling and just suck you in, and you're like, shit, am I watching a Marvel film? And then the next scene it's like these fucking deviant monsters fighting and lasers and everyone's flying around. I'm like, okay, yeah, there it is, that makes sense. There we are. There we are.
And that was a movie, I wasn't like constantly checking my watch either or anything like the time.
No.
It was definitely like, I love these characters. I love taking this time to slow down, because I feel like, all the other movies lately have just been like, go, 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 action. Explosions.
What I thought Black Widow was going to be, with more of like a character study on her, is like what I actually got in Eternals. Like, all the character moments in Eternals are vastly superior to any of the trite horse shit you get in Black Widow. Like, that movie is completely devoid of anything remotely like resembling like character moments that I give a shit about.
And I think that even like the Marvel humor in Eternals, like I actually enjoyed some of those comedic moments. I was like, that was actually funny.
They're not
like, that's
happening
great.
all the time, you know.
Yeah,
and
I thought
they're really well put, I think.
Yeah, I thought the pacing in that film, not just in terms of just like its length, I guess, but pacing in terms of just like what emotion we need the audience to feel right now to kind of just keep them moving, was really well balanced. Because you get some yucks, you get some feels, you get some heart, like just some love, some like, wow, just like, it was like, honestly, like another Marvel film that I thought did a really good job with that was Thor Ragnarok. Because there's actually a surprising amount of emotion in that film, and it's also like one of the funnier Marvel films. But the film's paced out like really well. Like, I always think back to this scene with Thor and Loki on the cliff's edge when Odin dies. Like, that scene is just incredible, Like, that whole sequence is amazing, where it's just kind of like he basically acknowledges them as both their sons, or his sons, and you're just like, man, this movie's got the feels. And then, like, that's just good directing, Chloe Zhao's a good director. Taika Waititi's a good director. Like, they understand how to pace a film and how to keep you engaged on every emotional level, and not just bombarding you with action set piece after action set piece until you're fucking exhausted, and then the movie ends.
I was kind of bummed. I almost wish that Eternals was almost like a 2-part movie, just so I could have more time with those characters. Like, just because I wanted more Chloe Zhao directing.
See, the thing with all the, with all the love that I'm giving that film, the thing that I didn't like about it was how it ended. Like, I understand why it ended that way, but I don't know, I just don't like it. It just felt like it was not planned, and it was just like, oh, hey, we got to add this in, and they're like, okay, whatever. Like,
yeah, I think the pacing was a little weird. Like, there are some good moments with that, but I think they're definitely like towards the end it's just rushed. Let's get to all the Marvel-esque things. Let's just bring in the,
I mean, I'm fine with
characters.
Like the ending, like the climax of like them stopping the birth of a celestial
Well,
and all that shit, and how
yeah.
all the characters kind of like go on their own different path again. But like how it ended with Cersei
Okay.
and Jon Snow, Marvel Jon Snow, whatever his name is, like walking through the park, and then all of a sudden, fucking Airship shows up and takes them all away. And then boof, and then he's like, "Oh, I gotta become the Black Knight," and I'm just like, "What the fuck just even happened?" Like, this was such a weird ending to this film. Like,
It was more like a post-credit scene.
yeah, and even as a post-credit scene, that would have felt weird. Like, it would have been way better if it just ended with just those two just walking in the park and just kind of like coming back to, you know, getting back on their lane together. You know, just like a nice, all right, cool end. Like, I don't need all this weird cosmic setup shit. Like, that just felt very out of place and that definitely felt like some like Marvel executive in a room be like, "Oh, hey, can we put this in there? The nerds will love it." And Chloe's like, "God damn it, fucking nerds. Like, why did I take this job?"
Yeah. Like, you won't get another movie for this part. We're just going to add it on to the end.
Yeah, like, I hated that last like 5 minutes. I'm just like, ugh, what? It's such a weird close. But like, I had to rewind it because I didn't even like understand what the hell just happened. It was so fast. I was like, what the fuck just happened?
It was just like,
So they took Cersei, right?
Yeah.
And that was after like
And Jon Snow just got her back.
Jon Snow just got her
how-
back, so now he's got to go sell his soul to his evil sword
Yeah.
to get her back. And see that
wait,
part.
there's that voice.
That part right there, yeah, and that
Yeah,
part
and then
right
Blade.
there. I don't know if I'm gonna like what happens next with Kit Harington's character, because the Black Knight, yes, he's an Avenger in a way, but he also exists on like the weird side of Marvel, which is actually a more X-Men side of Marvel. With the like Arthurian legend stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't think I want Arthurian legend MCU stuff.
Well, also, it was also kind of
MCU
a weird.
is getting weird. Yeah.
It was also kind of a weird writing thing because at the very end too, he was just all like, "Oh yeah, hey, I know you're like some cosmic deity or whatever, but you know I got some weird family history shit too. I got this black blade in my desk back at work that I don't, you know." It's just like, what?
I can fit in with you. Don't worry.
It's like, where did this come from? Like, I think it would have been better if he like didn't know and he had to go on some journey to find out his lineage. I don't know
Or
what that means.
after, yeah.
I don't know what that means in comic book land, and I don't fucking care.
Well, his uncle was the other Black Knight,
Right.
That was
who
cool, yeah.
did awful things, and so that's why he knows about it. It's because
Is this the same Black Knight from Monty Python?
yes,
Perfect.
yes,
That's
absolutely.
really all. That's all I want.
Yeah, that's exactly who I'm referring to. Yeah,
That's his uncle.
that's his uncle. That's his uncle, and he died.
Just a flesh wound.
Just a flesh wound. But I'm really curious as to why would Blade be stopping him?
I don't.
See, like,
yeah, I
you're
was
asking the wrong
very
person.
confused.
I mean, and again, they can take the Black Knight and they can change his kind of like his like origin, like they did with Captain Marvel, and they can make it whatever the hell they want. I don't really care. Like, his origin's not
same.
that exciting anyway. So like, I don't know, whatever they're doing, like, I guess it could possibly involve Blade. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, same. Well, with that, let's say we take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the weird Marvel that's coming up.
Indeed. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're going to go ahead and move into the weirder side of Marvel. And we're going to start with, I think, some people's movie of the year. Not Ethan's. Probably not mine either, so that's okay.
I think it's not mine.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about.
I'm curious whose it is.
Well, for some people, Shang Chi was like the first movie they saw in the theater. for like a super long time. So
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
true.
there's some extra stuff there for them. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, but
I mean,
Shang-Chi, let's talk about that.
I really liked the vast majority of that film.
Right?
I was very cautious going into it and had pretty low expectations. Once again, not knowing who this character is, you know, with zero comic background. I kind of got the feeling that this was going to be sort of like a Thor Dark World kind of scenario where you had like Shang-Chi, and then you got like this comedian actress, Aquafina, that's there, and it's just like constantly going to be berating the audience with like jokes the whole time to nauseum, basically, and it's just going to be like 2 hours of that.
Right.
And thankfully, like, she was amazing in the film. She didn't bother me at all. She actually had a purpose to being there besides just some dope that has one-liners. They perfectly casted. How do you pronounce the main actor's name?
Simu
Yeah.
Simu Liu. Like, that dude is fantastic. Like, I loved his character. It was awesome. And the villain, I thought, was one of the stronger villains in the MCU, honestly.
Very much so.
Because it wasn't a just like cut and paste, I'm a bad guy doing bad things for bad reasons. Let's do it again. Like, there was some emotional like attachment, some intention behind what he was doing with his, you know, with his dead wife, and like, I don't know, like that film. I don't know if it's just I went in with low expectations, but that film like threw me off, and I was pleasantly surprised. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wasn't really into the whole. Once again, the ending, the third act, I thought was kind of unnecessary, with the anime dragons fighting or whatever, and then like I don't know. I didn't really like that his dad died. I kind of thought it would have been a better ending if the whole point was kind of like a redemption arc for him, and he kind of just stayed in whatever, that Neverland or whatever the fuck that was. You know what I mean? And just kind of lived out his days there with his, you know, but
I mean, he didn't really have anything left to like be alive for after that, though.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but I felt like thematically it would have been like way more impactful for me if instead of just like killing him off, he kind of had like a full like redemption arc, maybe like Vader-esque, I guess. And then dodging the whole like dragon anime whatever 30-minute CGI, let's just show off what we can do fight. Like, it could have had a little bit more of just like a human emotional ending, I guess, as opposed to like some like big brawl thing.
I feel you.
Like, that's kind of how I was like in the moment, like watching the film. I kind of thought for a second, I was like, oh, okay, cool, this is gonna be like a really just like strong emotional ending, and I'm gonna be all for it. And then it's just kind of turned on the Marvel crank to 11, and then I was like, oh, all right, well, okay. Like, it wasn't bad. I'm sure it was like it was exciting. It's exciting to watch, and it looked good and all that stuff. But I just felt like it wasn't needed. You know.
It was expected in a way. It was just unfortunately expected. I was just like, yeah, I guess that's what we're gonna do. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't know. What were your thoughts as like him as a new character in the universe and that film in general?
I want to see him like fight other heroes. Because he's like within his own little world now, he's like the strongest, you know? And he thinks he can do like anything through martial arts. I want to see him like scale his power to like other heroes. And more importantly, I want to see the other people react to him. Like, because some of them are like, well, I'm stronger just physically, so I should be able to beat you. And then he's just like, well, but I'm faster, I have better reflexes, and I can use your power against you. So, I want to see how that works out for everybody.
Yeah, I am curious to see where he goes and who he meets up with.
Yeah, that too, because I don't even have an idea for that one. When they left, like, Wong came to get them, I was just like...
Yeah.
Are they going to be Doctor
Strange? I was speechless.
Speaking of Wong, like, what is that fucking dude doing? He's just, like, all over the world. Just,
he's
like,
the Sorcerer
cage
Supreme.
Fighting.
I know, but he's just, like... Wants.
Yeah, he's just, like, a fucking globe-trotting dude. He's just like, yeah, I'm going to go cage fight this fucking guy. Then I'm going to go back to New York. Then I'm going to be here. Then I'm going to do this. It's just like, dude, what the... What is up with you, man? You're all over the map.
Well, I think
I
it's
guess
only
he's like, Doctor Strange won't listen to me.
showing...
I'll just do whatever I want.
Well, Doctor Strange doesn't have to listen to him. Or he doesn't have to listen to Doctor Strange, because, again, Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme now. Doctor Strange is not. He's a peon. A more powerful peon. And a bitchy peon. But he has to listen to Wong, so...
As a Sorcerer Supreme, though, he just kind of seems like he's just like a party animal. He's like, I'm going to go get drunk and cage fight some people. Like, I'm not going to pay attention to, like, guarding the universe. I'm just going to go, like, party in these, like, random, like, dives across the world. You know what I mean?
There's
like
a mystical purpose for it.
That's his character there.
That is also his character.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, I'm not dogging on it. Like, dude seems cool as shit. But I'm just like, man, what is up with this guy?
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll maybe they'll touch upon it in Multiverse of Madness, but God knows there's enough going on there.
Yeah, I feel like
they'll appear for 10 seconds, maybe. Who knows?
Just through a portal. Just.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like, we're just doing this thing for Wong. Bye.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know.
Very possible.
There's another thing I liked about the film is that I thought it had a lot of really good use of symmetry, both emotionally and like visually, how it could convey a lot of things just through like a simple shot, through a composition, as opposed to a character having to explain it to me.
Doesn't that reflect the whole theme of the movie?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I thought they actually...
That's pretty cool.
I feel like they actually handled that properly, as opposed to like dumbing it down for like the common denominator.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like they handled it pretty well. Like, there's a few shots in the film where, just based on the composition and like very subtle things, you totally understand what's going on, like where you should be at in your head. And I feel like a lot of Marvel films don't utilize the medium in that regard. They kind of rely more on the script or characters kind of telling you things, as opposed to just letting the visuals tell the story.
Yeah.
I thought Shang-Chi actually did a really good job of letting the frame tell me what's happening, as opposed to characters.
Actually, and
I appreciated it for that.
No spoilers, but Spider-Man does this a lot too. The new Spider-Man. Which is weird, because in Spider-Man movies, like, it's just everybody's loud and they're yelling at each other. Because that's just what that's what Spider-Man characters do. No, there's a lot there's a lot of like quiet moments in this movie where it's just people doing things. And you just see them. Which I thought was pretty interesting given the last two movies. But hey.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining about it either.
Then Spider-Man No Way Home, I'm definitely going into with like, I don't know, I guess pretty low expectations, just because of the whole Tom Holland Spider-Man experience has just been subpar to meh for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's definitely like good, cool moments in both his films. More like definitely Homecoming. Like, I thought Michael Keaton as a villain was amazing, and there's some like really good scenes with that. And then Far From Home, the first Mysterio fight, Fully Illusions, I thought was like fucking incredible. But by and large, both those films are just kind of whatever, you know. Like, I just don't really buy into the whole Tom Holland experience, I guess.
I would
As
agree. I do
Spidey?
not. Yeah.
Like, I just don't, I'm just not vibing, as the kids would say.
It's really nice to see all three of them together.
He's like the TikTok equivalent of Spider-Man, and I want the like record player Spider-Man, which is Tobey Maguire. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
give me that old school Spidey.
I
I
get
don't
that.
this new age shit. Like, I'm totally not into.
I do want to
don't know.
see it. I just want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah. I'm not expecting to be
I'm
wowed.
I'm not risking my life going to the theater and watching that shit.
Yeah,
Like,
no. No.
definitely not worth it.
Waiting till it comes out on something eventually.
Maybe
Yeah.
eventually.
I'll wait till it. Yeah. Yeah. I'll wait until it gets its second run after it wins Best Picture at the Oscars.
Man, okay.
No.
All right.
Anyway.
Chelsea, what are what are your thoughts on Shang-Chi? You haven't really talked too much about it.
No, I enjoyed most of it. I definitely like the the main characters, and I did always like Aquafina. I've always thought she was pretty funny and stuff, and so I was pretty hopeful that she would have a pretty good character, but I knew a lot of people aren't fans of her, and I was glad to see that she actually was more than just just the comic relief, and that
thank
I
God.
agree that I agree that they actually gave
Yeah.
her more to do, and I was like, okay, cool. So I'm glad
'cause it
she
was,
Yeah,
a growing up movie for both of them. Both of their characters.
Yeah, for sure. It
Yeah.
kind of felt like a movie for both of them,
yeah.
in some regards.
Yeah, it was
And
just
that's kind of
that
what I
duo.
want. Like, I'm not familiar with any of Aquafina's stuff. I just know that she's a comedian. So when she was in the film, I'm just like, oh god, I know exactly what this shit's gonna be. Like, it's just gonna be 2 hours of her cracking wise.
I mean,
And it's
it was kind of.
Well, I mean, she had those moments, but she was more than
It
just
was,
that.
but she all yeah,
yeah.
she wasn't like what's that? She wasn't Darcy. Who that's all she fucking does, and she doesn't have a point. She doesn't really need to exist. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and both incarnations of her, she has zero purpose. She just is whiny, catty, just like, oh, okay, cool.
Well-
Yeah, get a couple
Well-
cheap yucks and we'll move on.
No to Thor Darcy. Better Darcy and WandaVision. Not amazing
I would
Darcy.
agree with
Better,
that.
but it's still
better.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
but
Like-
still,
Yes,
it's
that's what I was gonna say.
that's low bar.
They
I
should have
guess.
never gave Natalie Portman some like sassy little intern. She didn't need all that. But it's
No,
good
Natalie
to see
Portman can
Darcy
hold her
out
own.
doing her own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if she'll be in Thor 4. But maybe not, because she seems to be out doing her own
I
thing.
think
Well, what
So,
happened to her at the
I
end of
think Taika-
WandaVision? Exactly.
did she get superpowers
No,
too? Because
she
I feel
doesn't
like
get
everyone on that fucking
superpowers.
show
No.
just randomly gets superpowers.
But
just walks through portals or
I think she just like
walls and gets
was abandoned
powers.
somewhere, wasn't she?
She was
I feel
just like it ends, and she's just like, okay. She like leaves with the sword people. She's like, okay, bye. My work
oh,
here
she
is done.
does. Okay.
Yeah, she just goes.
She'll be back in Secret Invasion then. Just kidding.
Jesus Christ.
Maybe.
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
She'll be back though.
We can do it. Well, we can do it.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
Monica's the only person who got superpowers in WandaVision.
Yeah, I know. Like, yeah, but that was also just it felt like I guess cheap.
I think they
just
really
like, yeah,
wanted
okay,
another
cool.
Marvel character in there. So they're like,
Yeah, it's just like okay, cool. She like walked through the wall and now she's a superhero.
I was just waiting for her to get her
Okay.
powers the
Yeah.
whole
oh,
time.
for sure.
I'm like, it's coming.
Yeah, they
It's, like,
introduced her as
expected.
Monica Rambeau. I'm like, okay, well, here we go. Now, which
Yeah.
Right,
name
which
is
is-
she gonna have though? Because that poor lady's had
Wow.
like 10 superhero names, and then some white man always comes to take it after her. So like,
Just mash them all
Ew,
together.
gross.
I guess that's what we'll find out in the Marvels or whatever. We'll find out.
well, if
All
Oh, yeah.
something.
I just feel like that show wasn't nearly long enough to have so many things like that.
yeah,
Like, can you please? This show is Wanda Vision. Can you please just focus on 2 fucking things and stop jamming other shit in there all the time? Like, she wasn't even needed in the fucking show. Like, at all. We could have done without her entire character.
I did like her character, though, so...
I'm not saying she's a bad character. I'm saying the show would have been better if it didn't have so much in it.
Well, just you wait till we talk about another show soon enough.
Well, let's talk about it.
Well, might as well. Yeah,
want
might
to talk
as well.
about it?
Or
Yeah.
you guys want to
Is
finish?
it-
You guys want to finish with films?
I mean, we can do that.
You guys want to?
Sure.
You want to talk Black Widow and then we'll end?
Do we need to talk
Or
Black
do you want
Widow?
to jump?
I feel like we
mean,
kind of already talked about it
Yeah.
in previous episodes.
We've talked about Black Widow a lot. Everybody knows Ethan's opinion on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
And we're
you guys
done.
have really talked about
And,
it.
well, I mean, that about sums it up.
Well, I mean, the three of us have talked offline about it, but I don't think the listeners have heard you guys talk about it too much, have they? They know I don't.
No,
like
we
it.
did. After
Yeah,
it came out, we
yeah.
talked about it.
We did a review of it.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
we? I don't fucking remember. Movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The movie came, like I said, the movie came out like 7 years ago. I don't remember.
It came out too late. It's unfortunate.
Yes.
It happened in the way wrong spot. And it was a shallow film.
Yes.
Yeah. Not enough time for things.
Well, I guess it could lead into our Hawkeye discussion.
Because
I'm gonna
Yelena, the best character in everything.
But can we
Even-
talk about how that post-credit scene in Black Widow is supposed to somehow connect to what happened in Hawkeye? Because
Yeah, I
that
need
doesn't
some-
make sense to me.
There's a B in the middle of that A and C. And I need
Yeah, it.
All right, hold on, before you guys go off on a rant and I fall asleep with the mic. I haven't watched. I've watched a couple episodes of Hawkeye, and I've tried twice to finish it, and I just can't.
You just need to watch like the last 3 episodes. Just skip everything and watch the last 3 episodes.
Yeah. So I won't have a whole lot to say about stuff, what you guys are talking about, just because I haven't finished it. So, just so the listeners know.
So Yelena shows up to fight to
Yes.
kill Clint. While
like the
he's
4th
also
episode, I
trying,
think?
yeah, and they're also trying to stop somebody else. So she comes in as a third party in the middle of that fight.
Yeah, aren't they fighting the tracksuit?
Yeah.
Well,
Sophia?
they're fighting
is her
Maya.
name actually Echo in this? Yeah, Maya.
Yeah, it's Echo. They're
Yeah, it's Echo.
Yeah,
they're fighting
whatever.
Echo.
They're fighting a stereotype.
What?
basically.
Hold on. No,
Whoa, there.
The tracksuit
Hold
mafia.
on. Hold on.
there's-
Hold on.
Yeah, we're not gonna. We're gonna skip past that.
Well,
for
we're
a
gonna
sec.
dive into that, but we're gonna. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're wrong.
That's where I ended.
No. Okay, let's talk about Yelena first, then we'll get into
Yes.
Maya.
Yes. And Maya is. Don't even think about the Russians with Maya. She's got nothing to do with it. So yeah, she shows up to kill Clint, and in that moment, it's like a big like, oh my god, like stuff's actually happening moment, and he tries to get rid of Kate because he's like, no, like somebody sent a Black Widow after me, and we're all gonna freaking die. So you need to get out of here. And so Yelena ends up escaping. But then she comes to Kate later, like as herself, to like get to know Kate a little bit and like find out why
Over a box of macaroni
over
and
a box
cheese.
of macaroni and cheese.
With sriracha, maybe?
So- Kate, this is not a way to live.
No. One spoon?
One
Or
spoon?
whatever.
This is- But anyway, yeah. So Kate and Yelena, they're gonna be best friends, forever, at some point.
Oh, yes.
But basically, she's just like, Kate, I really like you, but I'm gonna kill Clint. So, whatever, like hero crush
Stay
you
out of
have
my
on
way.
him, stay out of the way. Just don't worry about it. Because if you're in the way, I'll kill you too. It doesn't really matter to me. And Kate's just like, and Kate's having this moment of going, oh, the world is actually bigger than I'm making it to
I
be.
have childhood fantasy.
Yeah. So they explore that a little bit, and then Yelena does go after Clint to legitimately kill him, but that's part of like the climax, I think, right?
Yeah. But no, I think the part that's the problematic part is where she's like, to Kate, like, oh, I'll tell you who hired me. your mom hired me to kill
yeah,
Clint.
for
And I was
sure,
like, let's talk about how that equals what we saw at the post-credit scene with Black Widow.
Yeah, like what's she got to do with, what's her name, Val?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, the girl from Seinfeld?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, because I was just like, something doesn't line up unless they're going to try to confusingly explain that, like, oh, Val got that information, but it was really from, Kate's mom. And I was
like,
Also, it seemed like the mom immediately, like, after she met him the first time was like, ooh, I don't like this guy messing around. I'm going to call up a hip person and just get rid of him.
legit, like, let me, like, oh, like, this hero's hanging around with my daughter, even though she's, like, adored him since childhood. World-class assassin, he needs to go. Got to go.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ, lady. Like, come on.
Yeah, that mom.
It could be that Fisk put her up to it, but even then, like, not that much time had passed since, like, Hawkeye had been in New York. So
yeah, that part was kind of a plot hole. It was very questionable, and also, like, she wasn't really, like, into, like, what Fisk was telling her anyway, because she was already like, I don't want to do all this sketchy stuff. And I'm like, lady, you've been doing sketchy stuff for years.
Right, like, you're gonna kill an Avenger, like,
yeah,
does that not paint
because he hung out with your daughter?
For real. For real.
Man, that mom, I had issues with that mom. I don't know if it was also the writing or that lady's acting. I just, every single time she was on screen, I'm just like, I cannot handle this woman.
Well, good
I'm
thing
just like,
she's
please
not your
leave. Yeah.
The writing and the acting is 1,000% why I can't watch that show.
Oh.
That
It's so
opening
bad.
scene was really bad, the first episode with the
The
parents.
opening 2 episodes are fucking terrible.
Oh, like when she's a little girl?
And I don't...
That
I mean,
scene?
just all of it. It's all bad. And I don't buy into this, her, like, weird fantasy where she, like, her apartment building had a hole blown in it, and then she saw a guy, like, 2 city blocks away fall off a roof, and then she became, like, a hero worshiper of that man. Like,
It had
what
to
the
do,
fuck?
like, in this moment,
like,
she
what?
was, like, so powerless, like, she couldn't do anything. But, like, she looked over and saw Hawkeye, who's not really anything special.
Who's not a super...
killing all of these aliens and
Yeah, but
protecting
also, like,
himself, and she's like, well, I can do that too.
we the viewer can see this guy, but, like, her... I just don't buy that she can see clearly what... Like, have you ever tried to look, like, 2 city blocks away? What's happening? Like, does she already have supervision at this point? Like... And half the building just got blown out, and she's... I don't know. That whole opening sequence was fucking dumb to me. Just like, what? You're like 8.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what is happening
That
here?
part was a little rough, but it was
And then that whole first episode, all the writing and acting and, like, trying to make all these, like... I don't know who the fuck these guys are, like, collectors or mob aficionados, or I don't know what the hell any of them are, but I'm just like, what? They're all trying to make them seem so, like, cryptic and, like, mysterious and villainous, and I'm just like, this is all just so cheesy and just awful, and Kate Bishop is the definition of cheese.
Yeah.
And I'm just like...
For sure.
And, like, and Jeremy Renner, I can tell... I feel like Jeremy Renner just felt like he just looked like he was kind of tired and just like, God, I wish I didn't sign this contract right to keep being this fucking guy. 'Cause I'm so tired of being this guy. Like, I'm so bored with this fucking role. Like, he just seemed not into it at all. Like, he's just, like, forcing his way through lines. I'm just like, this show sucks. I cannot watch this. I don't care where it ends. I don't care who, Fisk shows up. Great. Fucking Galactus could show up in this show. I'm not finishing it. I don't care.
Well,
like, I don't give a shit about anything that's happening.
Fisk is possibly dead, so
it's so poorly fucking acted and written and shot, and, like, everything I care about in this medium is so shitty that unless you have fan service to help back it up, it's just not there for me.
You see,
I don't really care about any of these characters anyways.
So, I mean, Hawkeye I've always had a problem with in the MCU. It's because I don't have anything against Jeremy Renner, but I've just always had a problem with him playing Hawkeye. He's just never fit, like, that role for me, and I've always just found him really odd. But I know he can act, so I'm like, okay, we'll just see what happens.
I mean, honestly, his best portrayal is Hawkeye was in Endgame.
Yeah.
Like that, everything about Endgame with him was
he had like
great.
so
When
much
his
more
family
to
died,
work
he went
with in Endgame than
Yeah.
all the other ones where he
Like
was
everything.
just like, I'm on
That's what I'm
team.
saying. Like that's 1,000% what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like this show being a Hawkeye show, it's just like he seems so just over it.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just like
it's almost kind of with this character too, but I there were certain things that I did really appreciate about the show, but there's a lot I didn't like. And this show, I think, had the greatest potential to be probably the best MCU TV show, in my opinion, because Hawkeye is such a grounded character. He's very human, but when they try to, really put in the things about, his hearing loss and everything like that, I'm like, I just wish I would have seen, like I've already said before, about more about these characters and the movies leading up to his show, where you get more of that intimate, like, look into his life and see where he's been and how he's so run down, tired, and, that people view him differently about being a hero, but he's not all about, like, the fame. And I just think the show too, we've already talked about other Marvel shows where there's just so much going on. This show was the ultimate, like, basically filler in a way, where we fit in a million different characters and we're just like, here's all these characters and they're gonna be coming up soon in a bunch of other properties.
yeah. Yeah, you guys mentioned, I mean, like I said, Fisk, who was, introduced in the Netflix run of Marvel stuff, which is that shit canon now? Is it not? Is just Daredevil canon? Like, I don't know the correlation between that stuff and the MCU is at this point. But Fisk being in there, and then Yelena's in there, and you're talking Echo. I feel like all these Disney shows, with the exception of Loki, are just their biggest problem of trying to, like, shove too much in and introduce too much. I think they thought would be their greatest boon. We're like, oh, people are gonna be so excited, we're introducing all these new characters. But that's cool for, like, the fanboys that are excited for all these characters to get, like, live action reveals. But in terms of just, like, quality entertainment, it's just not working at all for me on, like, any level for any of these, because I feel like they are losing the premise of the show and instead are just trying to just, like, Marvel vomit everywhere.
Well, we should talk about Maya, though, because I believe she is a highlight of the show. Wade.
Maya's a really deep character. It's Ethan. It's a shame you haven't finished Hawkeye, because they don't go into Maya until, like, closer to the end, like what Maya actually is about. And bringing Fisk into it, actually it hits harder, because in the comics, like, Fisk is like her dad. Not her biological, but he raised her. He helped train her. And if you didn't know, Maya is deaf. She also has she only has one leg, and she's Native American. So all of those things they're big for, like, for the equity part, but also
And it's actually played by somebody who is
for
also
sure
part of all those communities, which is also amazing.
Crazy that they got all they got all three in one character.
And she can act too.
Right.
And I really liked her character.
The end of her story arc was so good, like what she did. Even just, like, I don't know ASL very well, but, like, just watching her, like, perform, like, you could still, like, feel, even as somebody was, like, translating for you. But
Side note, I do want to talk about the ASL, because this is something that actually bothered me, but I want to preface this by saying, I am definitely not a part of this community, but the representation and stuff regarding ASL seemed more respectful and representative of, like, the knowledge and stuff in Eternals versus Hawkeye. And it was interesting because, like, when people are the people are signing, like, in Eternals, you get, like, more of a scope. You can see fully, their hands, all their language.
Right.
But in Hawkeye, we got these very, like,
you're missing, like,
back of their
the
heads,
segment
like,
and
super
stuff like
zoomed up
that.
on their face. And it's, like, it's very interesting to see because both that movie and the show had the same ASL coordinator. But it's very interesting to, but it really tells you, like, there's very different, directorial, direction and, like, post-production styles for the show and versus the movie. And that really bothered me about Hawkeye.
Well, in a movie where, like, being deaf is something that's really, really hit on because Hawkeye's headed in that direction. Like, it's like it started showing, it's like, look, like, here's this thing. But then, like, by the end, they're like, well, we got it out of the way. Like, we don't need to, like, show it in such a strong manner anymore. And, I was kind of bummed about that, too. And as, people not in that community, like, if we noticed it, like...
Yeah. And it was just also, too, I felt like, there was also that moment even though I'm not part of that community, but also the moments where the person who was, of hearing, like, would also say the words while they were signing. And I'm like, that was also, like, not necessary. Like, we could really just, really get engrossed in the conversation by what's going on without having to have that element. But, that's just me being a little nitpicky about that. But it's just, and she just seems like such a great character. I just wanted more of that, and I wanted to see more of that.
Well, I look forward to seeing her in future stuff. I don't really know what that's gonna be. Well, hold on, she's getting her own
TV show.
Yeah, she's getting her own show, which is great because they didn't really talk about her abilities, like, at all. You got small, like, visual confirmations that her abilities are there, but they don't ever talk about it. Ethan, if you don't know, Maya's like the Taskmaster, where she can see things and immediately replicate them.
But better than Black Widow.
But better than
Or
Jesus Christ. What a fucking
And
waste.
interestingly, in the comics, Maya is actually the Phoenix right now.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So she's
That's wild.
yeah, her power got
So where for someone who hasn't
crazy.
finished the show, where does Hawkeye, like, leave us, or where is it directing us to? You know what I mean? Like,
He's a
what's the
caretaker.
ultimate, like,
Yeah, he goes back to his family and he takes Kate with him because her mom goes to jail.
Yeah. Rightfully so.
Yeah. She's like, you really gonna put your own mother in jail? She's like, well, did my mother do
What happened
awful
to,
things? Yes.
And I was like, yes!
what happened to her Eddie Spaghetti fucking boyfriend or whatever?
Oh, he was innocent. Her mom was framing him the whole time.
Oh, yes. That one. I was like, which boyfriend are we talking about?
No,
I'm like,
he
the
actually
other one died.
like he goes to jail because he gets arrested. He gets out. And he's just like and her mom's like, I can't believe, like, you and Hawkeye tried to arrest him, and he's just like, it's not a big deal, it's fine, like, we good. And then at the end, he, like, during, all the mafia people are out running amok and everything, he actually,
He's
like,
using his sword.
he goes out on the street and is like sword fighting the
He's
people.
his own little hero.
And of course it's super cheesy because the whole time you're just like, this fucking guy. But now he's like, he's innocent. He's not actually, like, involved in anything. So he's just out in the street, like, just having a great time with his little swords.
So what happened with the whole Yelena Hawkeye conflict?
They
They
had
get real close. No.
they have a moment where they talk about Black Widow.
We always knew about her. Yeah.
Yeah, and like she talked about Yelena all the time with him, and but like it was a situation where it's like I can't explain what happened to you and like have you understand what happened, but I know that you know that she made that decision on her own, and I tried to stop her and she won. Like, you can believe me or you don't. It doesn't really change anything because that's just how it is. So they had a nice little grieving moment together, and a lot of their, like, it was a really good character moment for both of them because neither of them got any kind of, like, conclusion after she died. So they kind of work on that together, and then she goes. She just kind of runs off. I can't remember if she said, like, what she's doing or anything like that. I don't really remember. I think she was just escaping the scene.
Just kind of like it was done with the conversation and just left.
And then Maya finds out that Fisk had her father killed, had her actual father killed. So she goes after him, and it's presumed that she killed him. But you get the typical, like, the camera pans away before you hear the gunshot. So Lord knows on that front.
So regarding Fisk, though, I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched the Daredevil show in a long time, but I felt like his character was, like, hardcore, like, overpowered and, like, completely invincible in the show. And it was very confusing to me. Like, he got literally, like, blown up. He got blown up. And then he just, he just stands there.
I mean, he has overwhelming endurance. I mean, he does.
Yeah, it's just...
He wouldn't be who he was if he couldn't, like, withstand some
But
stuff.
I was just like...
Yeah.
That was, like, multiple...
I feel like they handled his abilities with a little bit more grounded realism in the Daredevil series.
Yeah. Just everything is.
I can't speak to what they do in Hawkeye, but I feel like they did a good job.
Oh, it's just, I mean, he's portrayed the same way. There's just, like, Kate shoots at him with, like, an explosive arrow or something, and it explodes near him, like the shot blows up. I can't remember, like, the exact details.
There were a ton of arrows surrounding him that, like, it could explode, and she, like, set them all off on top of him, and, like, the whole area came down, like, the side wall, I thought, and then he was just, like, standing there, like, that's all you got?
Maybe it was like one of those, like, Buster Keaton things where, like, the wall falls, but he has a perfectly cut out circle that fell around him.
Maybe.
I guess so. How convenient. I don't know. That's the part I mean, I can understand it was Kate. Like, she's, like, a little child, basically, compared to him. So, of course, no matter what she does.
Oh, legit, because he was absolutely throwing her around, like, literally.
I was surprised she kept getting up. I'm like, there's no way.
Like,
I'm like, that girl can't get up.
He'd just, like, literally pick her up and toss her the entire length of the building. And she'd, like, splatter against the wall and just be like,
And I was like, you would have broken every single bone right now. There's no way you got up.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That was
I don't know. It was just like the whole...
Though. I liked it.
Yeah. Just the whole explosion thing. I was just like, that's the part that I was just kind of like, I can't really buy that. That was a lot of, like,
I mean, like, it ended
explosives
the fight,
in that.
If I recall correctly, it ended the fight.
I think it was just like a distraction. I don't know. It was...
Because that's when she got out of the building, right? And then her mom was there, and then he eventually kind of, like, meandered his way out real slow. And then she was like, Fisk, and he's just like, oh, your mom is a bad lady, I should kill her. And then...
Yeah.
And then...
Gets hit by a car. That's the car.
Yeah.
So, since Fisk is in this, is there any acknowledgement of the fact that he had to deal with Daredevil or any of the other slew of Netflix anything?
No.
He just somehow has all these tracksuit
Isn't Daredevil in Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Or not Daredevil, but, Matt Murdock.
He's a very good lawyer.
Yeah. So...
He's in it for like 25 seconds. They're like sitting in the Parker's living room, like discussing like legal options and stuff like that. And he keeps asking Matt the same question, like, how do you know whatever? And he'd just be like, well, because I'm a lawyer. Well, right, but like blah 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 blah. Well, I'm a good lawyer. And then somebody throws a brick through their window. and it's about to hit Peter, and Matt reaches out and grabs it out of the air, like without like, you know, turning around or even moving, and they're all like staring at him, and he's just like, I'm a very good lawyer. So he is, you know, he's the same character. They're both the same people that they were in their shows.
Yeah, see, that I guess that's what I was asking is like, are they just acknowledging that yes, we're bringing them in, or is this like a Wanda Vision thing where it's like, hey, it's Quicksilver. Oh wait, no, it's Richard Boner.
No, I think somebody said
I think they're bringing them
they
in
are
more,
the same. They're the same versions of
Okay.
the characters. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So does that open the door to bring in other Netflix?
They
characters?
said it's possible.
I hope so.
Because at a time that was canon, because in the first season of Daredevil they acknowledge the Avengers and they talk about them fighting aliens and shit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like during the Netflix thing, it was like it's as canon as far as we want it to be, because there was no reason to like confirm it one way or the other.
Yeah.
Well, they were all such small time too. It's like we don't really need to bring you in for Avengers problems, but you guys can talk about us.
Yeah, there's no reason. Yeah, there's no reason for that.
There's no reason we need you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But now that the world is getting so big and the MCU is getting so big, it's just like it's becoming glaringly obvious that we have all these things and all these tangential stories. It's like, all right, well, you should know by now. You should know who these people are if you all live in the same city, right? Like,
Yeah. Maybe we'll see more of that understanding from everybody that, oh, hey, you're here too.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Like that's kind of where I'm at now at the MCU. Is I feel like it's gotten so big and so many overlapping characters and I guess lanes. And it's just like, how the fuck did you not know this was going on while you were doing this and that? Like, you should all like be aware of everyone's existence by now. And like everything we get is always just like introducing some new secret universe or some secret clan, or like, oh, the so-and-sos or the secret organization that we've never known about. I'm like, how many secret organizations are there now? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, how do you...
Well, it wouldn't be very secret if everybody knew
like,
about it.
I know it's like a comic. I know it's a comic book thing, but it's getting to the point where it's just like it seems like such a shitty way to just like cloud the fact that, oh yeah, there's hundreds of heroes instead of just 7 because secrets. You know, like it's getting kind of old that's like the excuse they have.
Well, it's an every media kind of thing. Something goes on so long and you have to start retconning. Well, why didn't this person know about this? And
that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like it's
sorry
that's kinda where I'm at,
MCU
where I'm
does
like,
it when everything else does it too. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Well,
And it's not forgivable in anything. It's just like, all right, Jesus
it's the
Christ.
human factor, you know, like, you know, people poke at Harry Potter a lot because, well, but like in the first book, J.K. Rowling said this. It's like, sorry, she didn't have the entirety of the 7th book figured out when she wrote that first book. You know, it's like, it's human error, like to some extent. Like, we're not clairvoyant; they can't figure everything out.
Well, my thing is like you have characters that exist, and you're like picking and choosing which ones you want to like continue acknowledging. You know what I mean? Like Chelsea said, you had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that were canon at a time, and now they're, I guess, not. And then the Netflix heroes that were canon, and it's just, okay, now some of them are. Like, that's my thing. It's just like, how long until can we start acknowledging
all instead of just
people?
some? Yeah.
Yeah, like, that's what's annoying. Like, I don't give a shit about details being changed here. Like, I don't fucking care about all that stuff. It just seems like you kind of made this thing too big, and now it's like unwieldy for you, you know, or you don't know how to handle it because there's just too many characters and too many things going on that at a certain point, like you don't really know or have a grasp on what you have anymore.
Well,
that's kind of
it just kind of depends too, because like if they say that like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is canon, well, what comes with that? Well, there's all of the oh my gosh,
Ghost
Inhumans,
Rider.
Ghost Rider. There's Inhumans. You know, like
yeah.
But then you have the other
Well, the good
Inhumans
Inhumans,
show. So like,
good
so then
Inhumans.
like,
No,
where does that
yeah.
connect? So it's a game. You have to be careful of. You claim one part.
Yeah,
of
but
it,
that's.
everything else comes.
I mean,
with
I mean, that's.
yeah.
That seems like that's their fault and not mine.
I'm
You know
not
what I
going to
mean?
defend that one.
I'm the fucking viewer here, and if you're gonna slap all this Marvel shit everywhere and then pick and choose what exists where, like all that's gonna do is annoy me. Because then I'm gonna pick and choose what I should care about.
I mean, you're going to do that either way. So.
I'm like, I think that's fine though.
Well, yeah, personally.
I think the whole MCU has broken up so wide that we're gonna just have so much. But I think it's just best, if they do acknowledge everything, so that there is a little bit of something for everyone, and it's just not expected for everybody to watch every little thing. I mean,
Right.
there will be people who do that, but
Well, like,
just
if they
it's good
ever
for
fully bring
a lot of
like the
people.
Netflix stuff in, I like if Daredevil shows up in like the next Spider-Man movie, like as like a featured character, I highly doubt his portrayal in that movie will be in such a way where you're gonna have to go watch 5 seasons of something to really understand what he's doing in this movie. You know,
Oh,
so
yeah.
well, that and also like the Netflix shows are so tonally different
Are dark compared, yeah.
than
Spider-Man
most
could do with some
MCU
of that.
stuff.
introduce Peter to
Uh,
Jessica. He's an adult now. It's fine.
He's ruined, yeah.
She'll mature him right on up.
Oh yes, but please bring Jessica into it. Gosh, Kristen Ritter, we
I
need
would
that.
die. I would die.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would be. Yeah, I think it'd be cool if Jessica Jones showed up again, because that was a. I personally didn't really care for the shows, but I respect that character and what she could bring to the table. More so than Luke Cage and Iron Boy or whatever, Iron Mallet,
Iron Fist.
Iron Fist. Yeah,
Yeah.
those two those two guys. Whatever,
I want Jessica to be in a room with like all the major players of like the Avengers stories, like people who could like explain what happened. I want them to tell her these things, and I just want to see her reaction. And I want to hear
Yeah,
what
I
she
want the
says to them.
She'll just
I want the
leave,
equivalent of.
No,
throw
like-
something at them, just leave. Be like,
Give me a show where it's just her. It's like Mystery Science Theater, but she's just watching all of the MCU.
she's just like sitting there with a drink in her hand.
yeah, I was like, she's
Yeah.
getting heart
Like-
rate drunk
Taps
at that
her in
point.
her armchair every so often.
like what they did in Loki, where they just had they just showed like all the basically like rehashing his like life or whatever. Just do that same thing. Put her in a room, have her rehash the entire like MCU up to this point. And she's just like commenting on it. Like I'd watch that.
Miss Jones, you are now going to
God.
be integrated into the MCU. We're going to need you to watch 26 films and 5 TV shows, so that your character is up to date. We're going to put a camera in front of you the whole time. Here's a few bottles.
Give me that show. Make it like a reality show.
They'll have to keep
Yeah,
replacing the cameras because she'll keep breaking it, or it'll keep
Probably.
be all
Probably.
static. Like, okay, we're
Honestly,
back now.
I would love that.
We're
I
hiding
would
in
be
different
totally
places
into
so
that
she
show.
can't find the camera.
Oh my god.
I would be totally into that show. That would be
That
awesome.
would be great. Well, one other thing, like, speaking of like the whole everything just breaking open more characters and stuff, we didn't really touch on What If. Now that's a whole.
Yeah. I also didn't watch What If. I was so by the time when that came out, I was just like you talked about Chelsea like being kind of having Marvel fatigue. I had some serious MCU fatigue, and to the point where like I just didn't care anymore about any of this stuff. And then when What If came out and like the animation wasn't striking to me, and all these hypothetical storylines, I'm just like I'm done. I just didn't even turn it on. Like just glazed right over it.
Yeah. Well, Wade, you watched it all, right? Of course. Yeah. And I did actually finish it recently because I got through it. I just had been putting off for so long, but I think the payoff in the end is worth it. But I do think there's only like a handful of those episodes that are worth watching.
Yeah, like singularly,
I think-
the episodes are what they are on their own. But then like you watch the end and it's like, oh crud, they are all like connected, and even part of them will like move forward. Yeah, just go watch the Party Thor episode and you're fine.
No,
She
no,
said
I
no.
strongly disagree with that. There are only 4 episodes that are worth watching in that season.
that
I'll
one's
tell you
not
which
it.
one. No, actually only 3
So
that
how-
Ethan
will
would
tell
care
us.
about. So
So how is it 8? How many
Yeah.
are there? 8?
Yeah. There was
Yeah,
supposed to
9.
be a 9. There was supposed to be an extra
Oh.
episode. Like Badass Gamora.
I think there are 9 though.
There might be, but there's supposed to be an extra episode because they had to cut
Oh.
Gamora's episode. So that when
Yeah, because I was
she's
like, she's just randomly
yeah,
in there.
like when like all powerful Gamora is on the team in the last episode, it's just like what? Oh, and,
Yeah, I was
and,
like,
and Tony Stark being like Iron Man of the galaxy, like doing whatever the hell he's doing in space, like with Gamora, like that's not
Yeah.
explained.
That was like
And
a
you're just
tease
like,
to something.
okay.
Yeah, I was like,
It's an episode
yeah.
that they had to cut. A whole damn
But
episode.
Here, Ethan, I'll give you the 3 episodes that you'll enjoy, and the one that I enjoyed that you probably won't watch. So it's worth watching the Doctor Strange episode, because that one is probably the best episode
That's a sad
of that
episode.
series. It's a sad episode. It's interesting. It really, there's really a lot going in there that we will probably see more of in the future. And then the last 2 episodes kind of ties everything together, and they're really well done. The other episode I do recommend is the zombie episode, because Marvel Zombies, why not? I enjoyed that.
They did a good job with that.
Yeah.
Without making
Overall,
it like
though,
the comics.
Yeah. I did have trouble with the animation at first, and I didn't like it, but by the end I did appreciate it, because it was actually something different for once in a way, and it was just kind of refreshing in the MCU to have like a different style of animation. And so I'm actually more excited for the second season and see where it goes.
I guess my thing with the animation is, I don't really like it aesthetically, but B, with this show, when it was first like pitched and announced, I thought that they would do kind of like what Star Wars Visions did, where every episode had like a different team and a different kind of style and different animation. And you know what I mean? And since it was all the same, but I guess you guys are saying if it all kind of leads together, I guess it makes sense. But like initially, I thought that they were all going to be just like different, because that's what I really liked about Star Wars Visions, is like each episode was like had a completely different animation style and a different studio behind it, so it made them each one just like completely unique. And that's kind of what I thought What If was going to be. And then when it wasn't, and then the art style was just that same art style that I wasn't really grooving on, I was just like, ugh, now I really don't want to watch, because I don't really like the way it looks.
Yeah.
So
It grew on me. I want better like dialogue in the future episodes. I just didn't enjoy some of the writing for the dialogue specifically, so I hope that works well, because
I
that's
feel like
why.
just Marvel in general just needs to get some better writers. Or maybe they would do better to have smaller writing rooms. I don't know, because a lot of these films you'll look and there's like 8 writers on the credits. I mean, when has that ever worked?
Yeah, true.
Like, look at Rise of the Skywalker. It had like 9 fucking writers. It's like the worst movie ever made. So, can we like get some just more voices? Isn't always best,
Yeah.
Have one singular vision and just execute it.
That's why I hope we see it more in the future. The MCU.
Yeah. More curated content, I guess, and less just like content in a shotgun and blasted into my face,
Yeah.
So,
Oh.
but yeah, any final thoughts on Phase 4? Are you guys? I guess, is everyone hopeful for the future? Is everyone still? Wade, I know you're along for the ride and eager beaver for the next thing. Chelsea, where are you at emotionally?
I'm still kind of tired, but I'll just take it one project at a time, and if it's something of interest to me, I'll give it a watch. That's how I see it. But I'll
Yeah.
keep it in mind.
Yeah, same. I feel like Eternals re-inspired me a little bit, but it's not a flawless film, but it was something that was like, wow, there is some good that can come from this. So hopefully we keep that up.
I agree.
Even though it's the worst rated film in the entire
Unjustly so.
franchise. Yeah, which I guess we can have a whole episode kind of talking about that bullshit. But we're running out of time here, folks.
Yes,
so,
well,
Chelsea, why don't you?
Yes.
Why don't
That's
you
going to do it for this
sign us off
episode.
here?
Thank you, everybody, for listening. And, please, for sure, let us know on social media your thoughts on the MCU. What do you like, dislike, everything. You can comment on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at poddemastered. You can also send us an email at demasteredpodcast@gmail.com. And, be sure to just like and subscribe to our podcast, share it with a friend. And, thanks again for listening, and we hope you tune in next week.
See ya.
See you guys.